Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Dr. Eric Von Blacknall III. This is my channel. Practical Dreamers Change the World, in my case for good. And the show is 3 Good Minutes. I decided to touch the third rail today and talk about Trump. Excuse me, I should say President Trump. Now, on a lot of social media outlets, at least the ones that I'm connected to, there's been a lot of conversation about the trail of abyss that President Trump is going to take us on. So I got my social media. I watch all of the news programs because I'm really interested in seeing what it is that they have to say. So I'm watching Fox, I'm watching CNN, I'm watching MSNBC, I'm watching the financial channels, just to get a feel for what's happening around the Trump presidency, or should I say the very beginning of the Trump presidency. Now, believe it or not, there's this idea that there's a split between how we should view the president. So if you're MSNBC, CNN, then you're viewing the presidency with a skeptical lens. And you're talking about the different groups that would be against him. That would be LGBT, that would be African Americans, that would be minorities, and that would be poor. And that would be inclusive of all those groups, obviously. Then if you're in Fox News or the financial channels, then you're focusing on the idea that you finally got a voice in the White House that's going to meet your needs and address your issues. And if you're like me and you're in the stock market and you're watching the financial channels and you're getting a 20% return on your investments, then you're smiling with the idea that, is he making a difference because we finally got a businessman in the White House? Well, let me say this, that I'm the first in my family to go to college, and I've shared that on previous episodes. And I know for a fact that we have different ways of perceiving the larger society based on your educational experiences and your lived experiences. So let me talk about that for a moment, if I may. A lot of my social media friends are college educated. I'm going through my list, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I've lost connection with all of the people who I grew up with. Well, there's reasons for that. I'm from the BX, which is the Bronx, which is in New York City, which is the second poorest county in America behind a small county in Mississippi. And in that community that I grew up in, we believed and we bought into the idea of the American dream. How do I know what I'm just saying to you is true without any evidence, which is what we're always looking for now? Hip-hop music, which is worldwide, a multi-billion-dollar industry, was created in the Bronx. And so I'd like to make a shout out to the creators of hip-hop music, the producers of wealth, jobs, opportunities, dreams. That's in the second poorest county in the United States. And then I'd like to ask that we create a museum in the South Bronx, or a hip-hop museum in the South Bronx, which could be a multi-purpose complex. So if baseball, my favorite sport, has to be from the Bronx, Yankees are there, where we would have a baseball field where we could supply gloves, a clean, healthy, exciting outdoor environment, where we could teach inner city kids how to play baseball, and we can increase the number of African Americans that actively participate in that incredible sport. I say that because baseball has longevity in the number of years you're allowed to play, has one of the best medical insurance programs that you could imagine, considering they have less physicality than football or basketball. Check out their medical coverage. You'll be surprised and impressed why being in baseball is something that African Americans should consider. Well, in the Bronx, what we were talking about, or what's the major conversation as to why Trump was elected into office by all of these red states. Because it's interesting, if you look at the map, then you'd find that the blue is going to be California, New York, and then Illinois. And by the way, Trump's a New Yorker. And it's odd when you think about how many people don't like New Yorkers, and New Yorkers considered part of the 3 million that popular vote in favor of Secretary Clinton. But people hate New Yorkers, but they'll count those numbers when there's an election. It's funny. Yeah, you can see that I started getting passionate when I was looking at my social media outlet, and I was seeing all of my friends, Facebook friends, attack the Trump administration for multiple reasons, which I believe genuinely are right for them, for individual issues. But here are the things that I think as to why he won. And I've got friends that will tell you, professional colleagues, that will tell you. I predicted Trump was going to win when he was battling against the other 17 Republicans. And they asked me why. And I said, let's be honest. Trump is saying things that people who are our friends, regardless of our race, of our religion, of our worldview, that we say in private at our dining room table that we wouldn't dare say in the public eye. And when you have that kind of fearlessness, you get support in areas that traditionally might not have been supporters of your ideas. And I say that with people starting to get angry at me, as I could imagine. He won Pennsylvania. He won Ohio. He won Wisconsin. Like, process what I'm saying to you while you're getting angry about the way that the Electoral College was established all of those years ago. And think about, he won places that need jobs. He won places where the middle class was established not through higher education, but through the opportunity to choose to work. So it's deep as we go through the process of him saying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest in America first. And I know that that discomforts some of my Jewish friends because there's some sort of hidden message that comes along with that. But I want to share with you what those of us who hear America first, nope, I didn't vote for Trump, in case you're thinking that. I didn't. When we hear America first, we think about those of us who pay high taxes. Think about how all of our money goes around the world and is benefiting other countries, while here in America, we can't get jobs. And we want to work too. Okay. So when he says that, he strikes a chord of excitement, the idea that we would be able to get employment opportunities that would allow us to take care of our families. Let me talk about the people that boycotted the inauguration. I was like, wow, that's deep. Because there's 535 seats that are reserved to attend an inauguration. And the idea that people were given a reserved seat to be on the dais, on the stage with him, said, I'm not going to go because of the things they don't believe in, although they're elected to represent their constituents. By the way, most of them who didn't show up live in districts where they're automatically going to get reelected. I'm not saying that about Congressman John Lewis, a true gentleman. I've met him on multiple occasions in political environments. He was always the same. I ran into him with my baby boy and introduced my son to him, and he was gracious with him. I ran into him at a fraternity event. Full disclosure, him and I are part of the same fraternity. And he was as gracious there as he was at the political event, as he was in Dillard's. And then I ran into him when he was just going to give a presentation at a university that I worked at. And again, he presented himself with the kind of graciousness that I honestly appreciate. Because I've met some of the other people who weren't going to show up at the inauguration, and they could look at me and see that obviously I had no wealth, and they bypassed me. And that's multiple people who said that they weren't going to show up at the event. Okay? So for me, it's not that I'm supporting a group of people, I'm taking the masses and I'm taking their ideas and their feelings and I'm representing them by saying I'm not going to participate. It's how am I when there's no cameras on me? It's like they say you can tell the way that a person is by the way that he treats the waitress. Consider me the waiter. I've seen a bunch of people who didn't show up at the inauguration because the Lord, for whatever reasons, decided that I'm allowed to interact with people who are unfortunate and people who are extremely wealthy. And I'm going to tell you something. Some of those people who are saying they're representative of our voice are not. But again, I'm nobody, I'm just sharing some ideas. I take that back. I'm somebody and I'm sharing some ideas. So when I hear the president speak, what I hear is him saying, and what I'm thinking that the people who voted for him, I hear him saying, because I do not believe that the majority of people who voted for the president were racist. I do not believe that. Evidence of that also would be that more African Americans, more Latinos voted for President Trump than voted for the previous 3 Republican candidates. And some people might say, but Dr. Blacknall, that's a small number anyway. But I'm like, but still, that means that people heard him. People bought into what he was saying and then supported him, hopeful that it's true that he's going to reinvest in opportunities where all of us can come up. And if that's true, I want him to get a chance. I want to talk about some of the things that were said as well. And I know this is longer than 3 minutes, but I'm touching the third rail. That one of the things too that should be noted is that, yep, it's true that a lot of the things that the president has said, I wish that he would be comfortable with taking them back. All of us have to humble ourselves, myself included. Okay? And in order to humble yourself, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. But one of the things about someone in his position, and I'm talking about the wealth, the CEO status, is that they have a tendency not to feel as though that they have to do that. So that's one of the things that I'm noticing is not being said in the media, not being said in some of the social sites that I'm a part of. Okay. Then I want to talk about what's being said in the realms of people who went to meetings with him. Now, it was interesting when Steve Harvey went to meet with him and he was called all kinds of names, Coon, Uncle Tom. By the way, that Uncle Tom thing. If you have not read Uncle Tom's Cabin, Life Among the Lowly by Harriet Beecher Stowe, shut up. Never again call anyone Uncle Tom because you have no idea what you're saying. Read the book. Okay? And then how multiple people came out against him in ways that I still can't believe, because it's one of those where he's a comedian, he's got jokes, he's got multiple shows, meaning he's giving out jobs, he's feeding people, and he goes to meet the most powerful man on the planet. And people who he has given his life to in mentorship and entertainment and cultural relevance wanted to disown him for a meeting. That says a lot about folks. It says that we aren't thinking as critically as we should. It was interesting to hear them attack and call the great Jim Brown. Now, I met Jim Brown too, okay? And we had a discussion about American. That man, and I met him about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. If you attack Jim Brown and call him outside of the respect that he deserves, that doesn't say something about Mr. Brown. That says something about you. That man has committed his adult life to changing the way that people in poor communities, in this case, South Los Angeles, who were hurting each other for reasons that they couldn't fully grasp or understand while they were going through their developmental teens, and invested his own money to do it. Back up off Jim Brown. Okay? So those of you who have made a decision that people who have had an opportunity to meet the most powerful man in the world, that they were wrong to do so. And then if they come out and they say good things about him, and you haven't met him, you don't know what kind of man he is. All you know is that he ran a campaign and said some things that you didn't agree with, but he won. He won. Since he won, what we've got to do is we've got to be careful of what we speak into existence. Those of us who know that the most important thing we can do with our ether is say things that are positive, say things that are hopeful, say things that lead to prosperity, not just for ourselves, our family, our community, but for the world.